Hey guys, welcome back to the show on the eve of the vice president debate that's going to be happening here right after the Lefty G show. So that's it. Tonight's topic is just that, vice versa, the vice presidential debate. So let's get rolling. Good stuff ahead.
Break 'em on. This is America First Radio. Patriots, get your ears on because we're blowing the speakers out.
Lefty G. It is time for the Lefty G Show. The only show to get you right. Get ready to get right with Lefty. Your voice taking you down Freedom Road. Now, here's your host, Lefty G.
Let's hit the fucking road!
All right, welcome back to the Lefty G show on this lovely Tuesday evening ahead of the vice presidential debate that's going to be happening in New York here a little bit later tonight after the Lefty G show. So this is going to be a good warm up to what we're about ready to experience this evening. Now, you know, with tonight's vice presidential debate looming, I wanted to address some simple comparisons between both candidates, but with an emphasis on the Democrat from Minnesota, Tim Walz. I think it's a foregone conclusion that I'm pulling for Vance far more than I am the stolen valor prick Walz. But, you know, we can sit there and talk about, okay, Walz was Army, Vance was Marines. They both have a military background. You know, one's a Republican, one's a Democrat. We can talk about the comparisons that way. But I think what we're doing here tonight is we're going to be talking about some credentials, some credence, some ethics to both of these candidates that I think is very important. And as you may have heard last night's show, that elections matter. And I think this one is pit and parcel to what we're looking at with Camel Toe Harris and Trump. But for tonight's purposes, let's get into kind of a little bit more of a hyper-emphasis on that prick out of Minnesota, Tim Walz, and of course, what he would bring to the table. Of course, looking a little bit deeper into his background. So, current Vice President Kamala Harris and her campaign are desperate to really paint this Senator, J.D. Vance, our guy out of Ohio, as a I guess for better lack of terminology, a bad option for the second line to the presidency. And that tactic might have worked in some circles if Governor Tim Walz, the dummy crap out of Minnesota, did not have so much fucking baggage. And I think that's what we're going to, briefly touch on here tonight. And folks, tonight's show is going to be a little bit brief because I want to get just this to be a warm up to the vice presidential debate later on, as I mentioned. But Walz's record as a governor of Minnesota leaves really much to be desired. And his accomplishments and his accounts of his personal history, they really span from questionable to outright false. I mean, this dude's a fucking liar. I mean, I bet if he was on his way to take a dump, he'd tell you that he was going to the opera. That's the kind of bullshit artist that this guy really is. But of the two vice presidential running mates, Walz is easily the one with more problems. And we should really look at this turd with a serious eye and really question, what it is he's bringing to the table. Now, when we look at, both candidates and of course, these candidates have, a background and they've got a history and all that. We're all well aware of that. This is the greatest negative, I should say, that the big tech media and the Libby Lou-Who's on the left in the media are trying to bring out on our boy Vance. This is a little comical here. The worst thing the left has been able to come up with on is Vance is this lousy picture of a teenage Vance posing in a bathroom with female classmates, which briefly made the rounds, right? It didn't last too long. But this is nothing of any substance. I would think that in today's world, the Libby Lou Who's would be just as happy to see a bunch of women in the men's room, even back then, as they are, seeing their chicks with dicks counterparts in the women's bathroom today. But I again digress. Meanwhile, Walls is more a tactless asshat and is really fucking embarrassing. He has some serious skeletons in his closet that we are definitely going to be discussing tonight. But again, as you can see, that's the worst thing that the left wants to bring out on our boy Vance. So to continue with this prick Walls, in 1995, Walsh was arrested on drunk driving charges after going more than 40 miles an hour over the 55 mile per hour posted speed limit. And Tim Walsh's congressional campaign, way back in the day when this happened, that the DUI itself, the incident, was downplayed as a supposed misunderstanding. Much like his rank in his military and experience that we're going to get into here in a minute. But this isn't the big part that I wanted to expose on this clown. And don't get me wrong, the DUI is serious, but to me, and to my personal beliefs and things like that, the DUI really is lesser than the stolen valor matter, because when he has claimed to be the rank he wasn't performed he performed in scenarios he hasn't, or he wore ribbons and awards that he didn't earn. This is a true sign of a pathological liar and a person, and even sick in the head, and a person who's not fit for the White House in any way, shape, or form. And speaking of stolen valor, on numerous occasions, Walsh has referred to himself as a command sergeant major, though he didn't retire at that rank. He was a master sergeant, which is 3 below the claimed rank that he's stating he was. So let me give you a little bit of an example here as far as, what I know about the Army and their rank structure. You have a master sergeant, right? Above a master sergeant, which is, again, a master sergeant is where Tim Walsh was really in his career as the Army. And he wasn't really necessarily active duty. He was National Guard with Minnesota. So, and no combat experience, even though he also claimed that. But back to the rank thing. So he was a master sergeant. And directly above a master sergeant is a first sergeant. Then there's a sergeant major. Then there's a command sergeant major. He's claiming that he was this command sergeant major, which again is 3 above where he really came out to be. Which, again, to be part of the military family is enough to be braggadocious about. But this sick prick wants to embellish on it. So check this out. Watch this for a sec.
Tell him I'm a school teacher, I'm a retired sergeant major.
As a 24-year veteran of the Army National Guard and a retired command sergeant major.
As a retired sergeant major in the Army National Guard out of Minnesota.
Retired out as command sergeant major.
I spent 24 years in the military, Congressman, as a command sergeant major.
Tim Walls is one of those everyday people. Coach to the state champs. Teacher of the year. Command sergeant major.
I am a retired command sergeant major in the Minnesota National Guard.
I am a retired sergeant major in the Army National Guard.
What I consider to be the responsibility and the privilege of being the highest ranking enlisted personnel ever to serve in Congress. And the Democrats.
What rank was that?
Command sergeant major.
So when you first came to Washington, you were a retired command sergeant major in the Army National Guard. So
I was an enlisted soldier for all those years, and care of troops and making sure they have the right equipment is paramount. So.
17, served 24 years, including in Operation Enduring Freedom, retired as a command sergeant major, which makes him the highest ranking enlisted soldier to ever serve in the United States Congress. That's what he said.
You have a visitor that's coming. This is Congressman Walsh from Minnesota. He's a retired sergeant major in the Army.
Mr. Speaker, I yield 30 seconds to the gentleman from Minnesota, the highest-ranking enlisted soldier ever to serve in the United States Congress, Command Sergeant Major Tim Walsh.
The gentleman from Minnesota is recognized for 30 seconds.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I thank the gentleman for this.
With service in both the Nebraska National Guard and then the Minnesota National Guard, he retired as a command sergeant major.
Shortly after I was elected, I got the opportunity to go out to Walter Reed Army Medical Center and visit some of our wounded warriors. And there was this young man there coming back from Iraq, recovering from his injuries, and they said, this is Congressman Walz. He's a retired sergeant major in the Army. And
he's a coach to the state football champs, and he's a command sergeant major in the Army National Guard. And I want to introduce to you my favorite coworker, who achieved the rank of command sergeant major in the Army National Guard, and someone who proudly wears the Red Bull whenever he can. So please join me in welcoming our governor, a veteran, Governor Tim Walz.
A retired command sergeant major in the National Guard, he represents Minnesota's 1st Congressional District and is the ranking member of the House of Veterans Affairs Committee. A member of American Legion Post 11 in Mankato, Minnesota. He was the creator and sponsor of the American Legion Coin Bill and was a valuable ally in the passage of numerous other veteran-centric legislation. Please give a warm American Legion family welcome to Representative Tim Walz.
So there you have it. I mean, this guy has been, a Cretan lion prick for a long time, for years and years and years. And don't let me forget this. There's also more on this Walz jagoff. In 2018, in his gubernatorial campaign, Walz called a Muslim cleric and you can't make this up. He called a Muslim cleric who promoted a pro-Adolf Hitler film as a master teacher. So he referred to this Muslim cleric in his 2018 gubernatorial campaign speech as a master teacher, of whom this Muslim cleric promoted a pro-Adolf Hitler film. I wonder how old Walz feels about all of the Israel, protests that are happening on college campuses right now, and people are calling for the death of the Jews all over again. I wonder how that asshole feels about that. But that's for him to figure out. And during his time as governor, let me add this in here too. Minnesota has awarded over $2 million to an Islamic group that fundraised for a charity linked to an Al Qaeda affiliate. Kind of fitting, isn't it? And I got to be honest with you, all of that I've just spoken to you guys on is easily looked up. Go ahead and check it out. I did my own research. You guys can easily do the same thing. But the Harris campaign is presenting Walz as some folksy Midwestern father who likes to hunt. The hell with that. This guy is more full of shit than an outhouse at an X-Lax convention. This guy is just a fucking turd. And look, here's the thing. In all seriousness, Vance may hold opinions that, I'm sure some voters oppose. But he doesn't have the weight of multiple personal lies and anti-American behavior sitting on his shoulders. He doesn't. He's a decorated combat Marine. Vance, on the other hand, is a non-active duty National Guard Army from Minnesota who's never seen combat, who lied about seeing combat when his unit during Desert Storm was really only sent to fucking Italy. I mean, not unless it was 1943. We haven't seen any combat over in Italy since then, and that would make the guy pretty old. But I'm sure he would probably lie to you and tell you that he rode with Custer and defended the world against space aliens or something. But again, Vance, look, I think he's great. I think he's a great guy. But if people have some of his opposition to some of his political views, fine. You have that ability. You have that right in this country. But again, I'm going to say this. Vance does not have the weight of multiple personal lies and anti-American behavior sitting on his shoulders as Walz does. Thanks to his history, Walz can't claim the moral high ground in any other areas that really truly matter. He literally shot himself in the foot. And good. The guy's a piece of shit. But there's not long, and I'm going to say this again, just like I said to you guys last night when I talked about elections matter. It's not long before Election Day on November 5th. Between now and then, the Harris-Walz team will claim, Vance, like Trump is an existential threat to the country and all that other rhetoric. But in comparison between both vice presidential selections, the facts easily put Vance on top. And I think even there's some moderate Democrats and even maybe some Libby Lou-Who's that can, get past all the beer hops and bong resin there out in their fucking head for a second to realize that, maybe Vance is the better of the two of them. I mean, who likes a liar? But at any rate, listen, folks, that's pretty much all I wanted to say tonight. Make sure you all check out the vice presidential debate tonight. Don't miss this one. This election may be the most important in our lives to date. Please don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the bell button to continue being part of the Lefty G experience. And as always, thanks for being with us. Peace through strength. Good night.